Hey, friends of truth, justice, and the American way. I figured I would explain what I've discovered researching the Massapequa Water District. Some of you may know that the superintendent of the Massapequa Water District has sued me for $1 million in a defamation lawsuit. I guess I'll explain something about that real quick, and then we'll get into the rest. This is some of the paperwork on the lawsuit the superintendent of the Massapequa Water District has filed against me. And the thing about this suit is, that I think is interesting, is Stanley Carey, the superintendent of the water district, is not only a public figure, he's a public official. So the burden of proof that he has is extremely high. He's got to prove without a doubt that anything that I said was wrong, and I knew it was wrong, and I said it anyway. So I don't think that's going to work out, because I think everything that I've said, is true. So in any case, what's really interesting about this action is, with such a high burden of proof, is that really what the action's about? What was really strange about this is Mr. Carey was looking to get an order against me, all right, a preliminary injunction, all right, to enjoin me from any further dissemination of defamatory information about him, and then to direct the destruction, deletion, or removal of any defamatory information in my possession. So if he would have got this order, basically anytime I said anything about the water district, they'd be able to run to court and say he's violating the order. All right. My attorney got this removed to the federal court, where I believe it's going to continue, but we're waiting on the court's decision, because Mr. Carey's attorneys want to get this remanded back to the state court. All right. The second thing I wanted to point out was my current FOIL request, just real quick. The business manager, Constance Pellegrinos, is also the FOIL officer. And she's been providing me with these documents. It's the usual story. They give you duplicates, they double charge you, they call the cops on me a couple of times. It's, they don't want to give the documents up. So what I think is kind of interesting is, now I'm asking for some additional documents, and somehow they believe they have the right to claim that it's going to take 60 days now. So that's going to be the next issue. Some of you may have saw the advisory opinion I sent to the Committee on Open Government, and I want to get my appeal in. They're denying these documents, they're denying them, I want to appeal them, and then they can deny that, and then I'll continue on with the Article 78, but I'm going to get these documents. All right, so let me tell you what else is going on here. Hang on a second. All right, back in November on the 28th, I had sent this email. Actually, I'm sorry, it was the 24th. I sent this email to, the following people here. And it explains basically what I'm going to explain to you in the rest of this video. And I have provided a number of these authorities with the hard copies of the documents that you're going to see in a minute. Okay, so let me explain to you what you're going to be looking at here. Here you have the timesheets for Commissioner Thomas Hand and Raymond Averma. This is for the year January, the year 2017, I'm sorry. Both of these are 2017. Now what I did is I did a Freedom of Information request to the Massapequa Water District for certified copies of all timekeeping records for Commissioner Hand and Commissioner Averma, and this is what I received. So as far as I know, these are all the timekeeping records that the Massapequa Water District has on hand for these people. Over here, we have, this is the information that the Massapequa Water District has forwarded to New York State Controller's Office for retirement reporting, the pension system reporting. All right, and what you have over here is, this is the information that So this is from the Massapequa Water District. This is from the New York State Comptroller's Office. This is the information that they received for the Massapequa Water District. So these two things should match up, and they do. But what's interesting is when you go through the timesheets of the commissioners, and by the way, I have all this information from 2009 through 2017, a partial 2017, but I just did the last 3 years, years 16 and 15. You know, I could keep going, but I think I've already substantiated what I'm going to show you. So when you go through these timesheets and you take, you know, the number of days and the per diem that's being reported on the timesheets, none of that matches up to what the water district is sending, the information they're sending to the New York State, to the pension system. So what I did is, like, for instance, here, this is Thomas Han for January of 2017. You know, his timesheets allegedly add up to 484, but they reported 530. All right, his per diem here added up to 1,200, but they reported 1,100. Now, I have some other notations here, and let me get into that, the minutes, and then I'll jump back into this. All right, what I also got through the FOIL, certified copies, these are the transcripts of all the Massapequa Water District's minutes for their meetings. So this is particularly January 4th, 2017. Actually, I probably should have started with this, since this is really important. Now, every year by law, the district passes a resolution that sets the standard workday for elective office of Water District Commissioners, and you have Hand and Averna, for the purpose of retirement reporting. All right, so 6 hours is a day. And then secondly, the records of the actual hourly time worked by the elected commissioners Hand and Averna shall be utilized for reporting time earned in the retirement system, and these written time records shall be maintained by the district. So when I did my FOIL requests, that's what these records should be. Now, what's very important is that you could see that the commissioners Hand and Averna, they participate in a timekeeping system. Okay, they don't do a record of activities. They're in a timekeeping system. And by the way, Averna and Hand, you know, they voted to approve this. They're the commissioners, right? So what you have going on is, when you start to look at these meetings, or rather these timesheets, you'll notice that on January 3rd, Ray Averna, he received his $100 per diem and an hour of accruable time towards his pension for reviewing minutes and memos for preparation of board meetings. Now, basically, whenever there's a Massapequa Water District board meeting, the commissioners always get $100 and an hour the day before for reviewing the minutes and the memos in preparation. I don't know if this is true, but I was told by a friend of mine that works in the water district that the business manager is emailing the commissioners, you know, the minutes or whatever, or the notes, and that's it. They get their $100 and they get an hour. But things get even more interesting, because you'll notice that on this particular day, January 3rd, Mr. Averna, he got his hour and his $100, but he didn't go to the meeting on January 4th. You know, so he got an hour and $100 for reviewing the minutes for a meeting that he didn't even attend. All right. Now, if we go to Mr. Hand's timesheet, okay, he did go to the January 4th meeting. You know, here, first of all, he got his $100 on the 3rd, you know, and his 1 hour for reviewing the memos and the minutes. And then the next day he went to the board meeting, he got another $100, and he got 4 hours accruable time towards his pension. But when you look at the transcripts of the meeting started at 4:30 p.m. and it ended at 5:30 p.m. So the meeting was only an hour long, but Mr. Hand got 4 hours. And you will find that every board meeting, they average about an hour. They run anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours. None of them last 4 hours, but every time there's a board meeting, the commissioners receive 4 hours in time towards their pensions. But the resolution reads, records of actual hourly time worked are supposed to be recorded. So I question that, big time. And now this gets even more interesting, because you're going to notice on these timesheets that they attend the Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission Association meetings. They receive per diem, and they receive pensionable time for doing so. And I'm going to show you some documents now and explain to you who the Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission Association is. There's another group called the Long Island, I think it's Water Conference. They attend meetings for that voluntary group, and they're getting pension time for doing this. So let me get into the rest of explaining who the Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission Association and the other associations that they're accruing, they're getting per diem and accruing time to attend are. So let's take a look at that. Hang on. Hey, before I continue on, I just thought of something. I don't want to make this video too long, but what I did is these notations over here. Like, for instance, this is the time that the meeting actually lasted, an hour, but they put in for 4 hours time. This meeting was 1 hour and 15, they put in for 4. This meeting was an hour, they put in for 4. This meeting was 1 hour and 15, they put in for 4. This meeting was 45 minutes, they put in for 4. This meeting was an hour, they put in for 4. This meeting was an hour. Here's another example of the $100 and the hour, but not going. There was no meeting the next day. So this goes on constantly, and the same thing with the attendance in the meetings of the Nassau-Suffolk Waters Commissioners Association. Right? This is the Long Island Water Conference. That's the other entity I was speaking about. So same thing, 4 hours, 45-minute meeting, 4 hours, 45-minute meeting, 4 hours, hour 45. And the reporting, like, here the timesheet reads 7 days, but they reported 5.17, and the timesheet reads that this guy got paid $1,400 per diem, but they reported $1,100. So this goes on constantly through the 3 years that I audited. All right, so let me get into who these people are: the Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission Association and the Long Island Water Conference. All right, so before I get into explaining who the Nassau-Suffolk Water Commissioners Association and the Long Island Water Conference, before I get into explaining who they are, I just want to explain that I put in Freedom of Information requests with both of these entities to try to obtain the minutes of the meetings that they had, sign-in and attendance record. Okay, this is the Long Island Water Conference, all right, and they replied to me that the Long Island Water Conference is not a New York State governmental agency and therefore not subject to the FOIL laws. And then I also sent in a little bit more detailed FOIL requests to the current president of the Nassau-Suffolk Water Commissioners Association. That's Mr. Bader. He's currently a commissioner in the Plainview Water District. And the way the Nassau-Suffolk Water Commissioners Association works is whoever gets appointed, it's their responsibility to run the organization, the association. So they don't really have an office or anything like that. The last person that was the president was the Bethpage, a commissioner in Bethpage. So if you go to the webpage of Nassau-Suffolk Water Commissioners Association, the contact information is still the Bethpage Water District. If you call them up, they'll say, oh no, it's in Plainview now. So anyway, and what I did just to, so anyway, Mr. Bader, he never answered me, so I just appealed that. And in the interim, I contacted the Committee on Open Government, and I got an advisory opinion from Mr. Freeman. You can see, this is Mr. Freeman to RIPS the Charters. In short, I believe that the members of the entities to which you refer are public officers or employees, but that those entities are not government. That being so, I do not believe that their records are subject to FOIL or that their meetings fall within the coverage of the Open Meetings Law. Okay, so what that means is that these commissioners and possibly the superintendent of the Massapequa Water District are attending meetings for these entities. They're not governmental entities, and they're receiving per diem, and they're receiving accrued time towards their pensions. And evidently there's no records of the meetings. I have some, and I'm going to get into that as I explain just who these associations are, and let's move into that. Okay, here we have the Nassau-Suffolk Waters Commissioners Association. They're registered as a not-for-profit in the state of New York. All right, I wasn't able to find any not-for-profit information on them. I don't believe they're actively filing IRS forms, or they're recognized by the federal government as a not-for-profit, but they're an association, just like any civic association. What I did find out about them was they were charged with a violation of lobbying acts by the New York State Commission on Public Integrity. I have their settlement agreement here. John F. Sullivan was the president at the time, Nassau-Suffolk Water Districts Commission Association. So they're involved in lobbying, and these are some press releases of the typical meetings that they hold. The Nassau-Suffolk Water Commissioners Association, of which Massapequa Water District Commissioners Thomas P. Hann is the president, and Raymond J. Averna is the first vice president. They held a special training session, okay? It was hosted by the Westbury Water District Commissioners. So they all take turns holding these meetings. These duties in this association, Hand and Averna, they volunteer to be the president and the first vice president of this group. It's great if they want to volunteer their time for public service, but they created this organization, and they're getting paid by the water district to attend these meetings, and they're bulking up their pensions by attending them, by holding them. They hold them themselves. So, here's one. They have Massapequa fiscal training. Here's one, Martin's award by Long Island Water Commissioners, for his support to them. And there's the Plainview Water District Commissioner and the President, Mr. Beta, right there. Here's one here. Legislative Vendetto serves as guest speaker at Water District meeting. There's Thomas Hann. There's Ray Averna. All right. This is a good one. TOB, Deputy Commissioner of Public Safety, addresses hurricane preparedness with Long Island Water Commissioners at Nassau-Suffolk Water Commissioners Association meeting. All right, so you get the gist of what the meetings are about. Here's one here, continuing education on water safety and emergencies. Let me see what else I have in here. All right, this is like the home page of the the Nassau-Suffolk Water Commissioners Association. They claim to be founded in '86 and to promote environmental excellence, substantiability, and to advance the highest standards of water quality supply and distribution. Composed of locally elected water commissioners from 21 Nassau and Suffolk County water districts, we provide information crucial to water district management and operational effectiveness. They support education and training, they provide advice, direction, and information on industry-wide issues, and they maintain legislative advocacy as well as public relations support. Now, as far as I know, they hold these meetings. Nobody goes to them but the commissioners themselves. There's no minutes. I don't know how long the meetings last. I can tell you that in Massapequa, the commissioners there, Hand and Averna, they're regularly putting in for 4 hours of pensionable time to attend these meetings. Okay, this one's the Long Island Water Conference. All right, this one's registered not-for-profit also. And at one time they were filing with the IRS as a not-for-profit. I don't know if they're currently doing it. I only have so much information on them. And you can see the board of directors here is Stan Carey. Carey is the chairman of the Mats Creek Water District. And the rest of the people here. Thing is set up a little different, this Long Island Water Conference. You have to be a member, you have to be a dues-paying member, or you have to pay to attend some of their functions. I mentioned that they are, they were an actual not-for-profit, and I'll get into that in a second. But you can see here that members would pay $75 to attend this dinner meeting, you know. And again, the chairman, Stan Carey, the superintendent. So like, he's involved in this not-for-profit, and then he's got the commissioners from the Massapequa Water District attending and paying, and meanwhile they're getting per diem and pensionable time to attend. I don't know, that doesn't sound right with me. These happen to be the minutes of the October 30th, 2017 meeting. You'll notice that Stan Carey called the meeting to order at 7:20. And the meeting ended at 8 p.m. So it was a 40-minute meeting. I don't know, did they put in for 4 hours? Here's the 990 EZ information for the not-for-profit. Just put through some of this stuff. Every year, Mr. Carey, excuse me, not every year. This is, I think this one's 214. All right, you see these people? A lot of these people are all involved in various water districts. Here's 213. Maybe that was 213. It's a little mixed up here. I didn't really intend on flipping through everything here like this. Maybe I should redo this. Okay, this was 214. I'm sorry. 214, Stan Carey is the secretary. Let's get into 215. Can I jump ahead to 215? Here we go. Well, they're putting some money through here, you know. And he's the second vice chairman now, Stan Carey. All right, this is up to 215. I don't know if they're still active. This is some of the testimony of Mr. Carey while he's representing. This is interesting. He doesn't represent the Massapequa Water District at these events, these Long Island Water Conference events. He represents the Nassau-Suffolk Waters Commissioners Association. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, this is some of the typical meetings that the Long Island Water Conference holds also. Gonzalez receives an award, Norma Gonzalez. Joe Saladino joins Kate Murray, you know, at their breakfast. Assemblyman Walker meets with members of the Long Island Water Conference. Here's one of their functions. You know, this is a sign in at 12:30. Please arrive on time. And this seminar is open to current members. Non-members have to submit a $50 check, all right, payable to these guys here, which I assume goes to the not-for-profit, right? So if a regular resident like myself wanted to go to this, I'd have to pay. Meanwhile, people that are employed by the various water districts as commissioners, elected commissioners, apparently they're attending, and I assume they're paying also, but then they're getting paid to attend. I don't know about that. We looked at this already, Chairman. Okay, this is actually a third group. This is the Long Island Commissioner on Aquifer Protection. And I think this is pretty interesting. This one's actually seems to be a legitimate group. It was started in Suffolk County through legislative process. But what's interesting again is nobody's getting paid to be here. This is all voluntary. And, you know, the superintendent of the Massapequa Water District, Stan Carey, he's involved in this. I think he's the chairman, or not sure what position he has in this one. but he's there representing the Nassau-Suffolk Waters Commissioners Association. I mean, he's not there representing the Massapequa Water District. I mean, this gentleman is there representing the Suffolk County Water Authority. I believe that he's a superintendent in maybe in Plainview. I'm not sure, but I believe he's a superintendent in one of the water districts. I mean, this guy's here for the Commissioner of Health, Legislative Presiding Officer, Presiding Minority Leader. You know, how come Stan Carey's representing this association here? He's not representing the Massapequa Water District. So is he being paid by the Massapequa Water District to attend these meetings? You know, I'm still waiting for Mr. Carey's timesheets through the foil, so we haven't found that out one way or the other, but we will. So I guess this brings us back to the timesheets, which, when you look at them, the only thing these commissioners are doing are attending meetings. I mean, board meeting, 4 hours pensionable time, spent an hour at the meeting. Nassau-Suffolk Waters Commission Executive Meeting. So I don't even know, this is another strange thing. The Nassau-Suffolk Water Commissioners Association meets roughly like once a month, but Commissioners Hand and Verna regularly attend these executive meetings. Could it be because they're the president and the vice president? Do they meet themselves, collect their $100 and their 3 hours of pensionable time? I'm not sure. I mean, when you go through, you see this one here, meeting with engineer and administrative staff. I mean, there's no record of it at all, but something like that's believable. You know what I mean? Like, when you just see board meeting, review minutes, you know, Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission Association meeting, I mean, look, month after month, you know, board meeting, review minutes, board meeting, executive meeting, review minutes, board meeting, Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission Association meeting, review minutes, board meeting, Long Island Water Commissioner Association meeting, okay, review minutes. I mean, that, what did this is Thomas B. Hand, like in February of 2017. Besides going to these meetings, what did he actually do for the Massapequa Water District? How was any of this alleged knowledge that the water commissioners are bestowing upon each other at these Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission Association meetings, how is that used in any positive way by the water district? I mean, Hand's not involved in any other way. He's just going to the meetings, right? Look, here's March, right? Look, this is a good one. They had training, right? The Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission Association training, board meeting, 4-hour meeting, lasted 45 minutes, board meeting. Here's a Long Island Water Conference. They had breakfast, okay? 3 hours for breakfast. They're not supposed to get paid to go to breakfast, right? Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission Association executive meeting, review the minutes and memos, board meeting. This is it. Here they had the Nassau-Suffolk Water Commission executive meeting. And now, Grumman-Plume RAB meeting. I don't know. There's no other records on that. I don't know what else that was, if it was there, if it wasn't there, what they did. Tore the South Farmingdale Water District iron removal plant. All right, that might be real. That sounds like you're doing something, The rest of this stuff is just ridiculous. And everything's wrong. Like, look, in April of 2017, Hand's timesheets recorded that he worked 5.17 hours, but they reported to New York State that he worked 5.17 days. But they reported to New York State he worked 7. He made $1,300, and they reported to New York State that he made $1,100. I mean, what the hell's going on with these people? Then I don't know if this is like, if they fix it, like, look, here's the following month, May. Hand only worked till May of 2017 because then he got appointed as, a council person in the town of Oyster Bay, right? So in May, he got paid $900, but they reported to New York State that he got paid $1,300, and then he claimed 3.5 days, and they reported to New York State that he worked 5.17. Here's another meeting. Here's another deal that he got paid, and there was no meeting. They just gave him that the day before or whatever. So I don't know. You know, everything has been forwarded to the appropriate agencies. I hope you can understand, you know, it's probably a pretty long video. If you stuck with it, I hope you'd understand what's going on in the Massapequa Water District. All right, take it easy. Hey, friends of Truth, Justice, and the American Way, there's one thing I forgot to explain. On Raymond Averna's timesheets, because he's not only a commissioner in the Massapequa Water District, but he's also a deputy commissioner in the Nassau County Comptroller's Office, I used the Freedom of Information to obtain Mr. Averna's timesheets from the Comptroller's Office. And then what I did is I just made notations along his Massapequa Water District timesheets. Like for instance, you know, on the 30 worked 6.75 hours for the county. Then he worked an hour, you know, reviewing the minutes, and 6.40 for the county and 3 hours here, and you know, 8.57 for the county and another hour there, and then, you know, 6.55, and you know, you go through them all. And what I thought was interesting, like some days, let's see if I can find it right up top of the bat here. Like some days, like he was sick in the county, you know, but he got 6 hours for attending, you know, this year. I don't know how the Nassau County sick stuff goes, but I know on the the sick on the police department I was on, if you were sick, you were home sick. You weren't getting paid to attend something else. So I don't really know about this, but in any case, I just think it's interesting, and I just thought I should mention, you know, that's what those notations are. Here's another incident where he was sick in the county and he got an hour that day over there. All right, thanks for watching.